Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I'm surprised there's people in the room. Allah reward everyone for coming back or for staying. Just so people know, we have also like a boarding school that we are part of. It's called Michigan Islamic Institute, where students come and they stay there for multiple years and do the Alamiya program side by side with their secular education. Some of the students that have been reciting Quran are students that are from that school. That boarding school is about normally 3 to 4 minutes away in the snow, maybe like 7 to 8 minutes, depending on how much you slide on the way here and the way back. So we have the students actually board there. We have students from about 23 different states that live there, and our capacity is 160 students. Alhamdulillah, we've had that for the last few years. So they do their hifadh and their academics till grade 12, or their 7-year Alamiya program with academics until grade 12, and then they continue their Alamiya program. So it's a full-time program. That's actually what we were a part of first, and it started in 2014. And years later, actually, we started Miftaah like in 2017, 2018. So alhamdulillah, we actually went to pray Isha there, just because the students in the boarding school, they start feeling like we're not giving them any love. So, and we're their parents pretty much. So we say, we just go stop by, say salam to them, see how they're doing. And alhamdulillah, they were happy that we went, alhamdulillah. So, jazakallah khair for everyone coming back. May Allah reward you all. Jazakallah khair really for Ustad Majid. He's from Dearborn, guys. Dearborn is not that close as well. It's like in this weather, it's probably 45 minutes minimum. May Allah reward Ustad for staying this late. Hopefully your wife doesn't get upset at Miftaah. And she keeps, she's happy with us. Allah bless you and bless your family. So inshallah, tonight's session, in the next 3 nights, inshallah, Sheikh Abdullah's flight got delayed as well. So, there's a lot going on right now. The snowstorm, right? But he'll be here tonight as well, inshallah. He'll be with us tomorrow morning, and he'll be with us tomorrow night for this Speaker's Corner. So today you're all stuck with me. Tonight's session, inshallah, we'll be speaking about pretty much, who was here last year for Knowledge Retreat? Like you guys remember the Speaker's Corners? Try to keep them light, relaxed, also somewhat, based on the topic, but not necessarily like a class. We've had enough of that the whole day. Last year, the Speaker's Corner actually came up on the day of the event. Like, yo, we got to do something at nighttime because let's just do this. This year, we actually, planned it from beforehand, and alhamdulillah, inshallah, we'll have good sessions every night. Today's topic, inshallah, will be based upon good suhbah, talabul ilm, just a general idea of what we're doing over here and why we're here. And then we'll dive into some of the personal journeys of Ustad Majid, Imam Mikail. Inshallah, try our best to benefit from them, inshallah ta'ala. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'll start right away with Ustad Majid. Inshallah, and at the end, if people have questions, they can raise their hands. The idea is to keep it a little bit more relaxed and not so formal. Ustad, what would be your first advice for youngsters and all of us today when it comes to, not talbul ilm first, but in regards to A, how to seek good companionship, and how to be of those that are of good companionship?
Bismillah wa salatu wassalamu ala
And how do you have good hair?
Okay, I'll tighten that, inshallah. All right, Bismillah wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. May Allah bless you, Mufti Abdul Wahab. Jazakallah khair. That's first of all. Thank you, and thank you to all your siblings who helped put this together, the team, the volunteers, brothers and sisters, that very likely will never be standing where I am right now, correct? None of you know the name of the person that put together the seat that you're sitting on, correct? The whole event, sah? No one knows their name, but Allah does, and that's what matters the most. And actually this will tie the response to the question is that when seeking knowledge, one of the main things is that don't try to seek it with the mentality, how will I deliver it? Many times we do that, oh, this sounds so good, let me write it down on social media. There's nothing wrong with that in general, but you are the first recipient of the piece of information you received. How does it impact you before you think, how will it impact others? How will it impact me before it impacts others? And try to teach what you're learning, regardless of how little you know. Many people got very hesitant, correct? They're very intimidated. Oh, I know just a little bit. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Mikail. I feel bad. He came all the way from Texas, and now he had to go through all that snow. And all. And like, what did I do? Right? You should have stayed. May Allah bless you and grant you Jannah. It's an honor having you, Sheikh. Allah yahfadak ya Rabb. So just to end on that note is feel free to teach the little that you learned. Feel free to teach the little that you learned, but stay, as they say, within your lane. Correct? Stay within your lane. Why? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey even if it was one verse. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, within perhaps few weeks from his Islam, he conveyed the Islam. I'm not exaggerating if I say the majority of people right now here knew more about the Quran than Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Because there was only Fatiha revealed, Surah Al-Qalam, part of it, Iqra, first 5 ayat, and that's it. Some of us know ajza of the Quran. But he did not have to wait for the whole Quran to be revealed, understands the whole message for him to convey. And the moment he conveyed, who became Muslim? Uthman bin Affan, about 34 years old. Right? Who else? Zubair? La, Talha. Talha, right? So you have all these grand companions, the 10 promised Jannah, some of them are actually from him. So that's something to keep in mind, inshallah. Just maintain your sincerity. Think of how that piece of information impacts you before how will I deliver it to impact others. And Allah knows best. Jazakallah khair.
Ustad. Imam, I don't know if people have the energy of round of applause right now, but if we do, that'd be nice. So Imam, we were just speaking about suhbah and how suhbah and talab al-ilm intertwine, right? And how the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were not the most knowledgeable, but they're the greatest because of their suhbah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He speaks about the qualities of the companions, He says, وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ أَشَدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم تَرَاهُمْ رُكَّعًا سُجَّدًا. He doesn't speak about their knowledge, but He speaks about their companionship. رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم. There were people that their love for each other was quite contagious. It wasn't something that you had to ask. Rather, the narrations where Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu says that people think we're brothers and siblings simply because of the way that we were interacting with each other. And it's quite synonymous to what the Prophet did with him, which was akhuwiyah. He built bonds of brotherhood and sisterhood when the Muhajirun came from Mecca to Medina. And that's what allowed Islam to spread. So a lot of the companionship is what made that classroom unique. Today classrooms are unique because the methodology of teaching, because the content being delivered, because the structures of the universities and campuses, all of those things make the institutions unique. But the Prophet's institution, where everyone was an A+ student, had no building. Didn't really have too much content. It was whatever was coming down live. But they were the greatest students.
Yeah, and however long you spent with the Prophet, like you had more stripes. You know what I mean? If you just were there longer, then you could pull a rank just on that. You know what I mean? So I was just commenting on that.
So based on that, Ustad or Imam, by the way, guys, someone asked in Slido, like, what are these titles and stuff? They're nothing. They're not important. For us at least, but for Ustad they're important. For Imam Mikhail they're important.
Why am I Imam, yo?
Sheikh, whatever they call it.
Mufti Mikhail.
Yeah, so
I'm not a mufti. I didn't do that course.
But whatever's on your book, whatever title you have on your book, right? What do you have on your book?
It's just my name.
No, we can't do that.
Just my name, Habibi. That's it.
Allah Barak Habib. So Sheikh Mikhail, like for them, we should make sure we follow that. But just like how you go to a hospital, you call the doctor, you call him doc, right? If you call him by his name or her name, they're not going to serve you.
So we're in a like knowledge retreat. So I think it's important to actually talk about this.
Nice.
So we don't have the same structure as the Catholic Church that has these very clear defined hierarchies of like names and titles. So the general titles are based on where a person studied. Right? And so if someone studied under shuyukh in a certain country, then whatever they called the seniors in that particular school or like more geographically, it's not even like manhaj, it's just geographical, right? So that is where we kind of got some of these titles. And I mean, Sheikh just became a general one, but we should give credit where credit is due. Like you're a mufti, you did the course. Now, again, that course, if you put that in Egypt and sit with some of the grand muftis of Egypt, then they might say, well, what's a 2-3 year course? But I guess what you have to understand is we don't have that same system that the Catholic Church had. Each of the type of systems of schools almost had their own kind of way of recognizing a person who was qualified enough to educate the community, right? And so that's where we don't really have the same bishop, priest.
And it's not, and it's, I would say it's not much different to any other graduate school studies actually. Like in America, medical school is a certain amount of time. Canada is like 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? Canada,
Barbados.
I'm just messing around.
Don't they be going like? Don't they go down there and just do it really quick?
Just quickly go. Like everywhere is different, right? Because but they're still physicians.
Like UK, like a bachelor's in UK versus a master's in UK over here, it's different.
It's different, exactly. Yeah. So it's not only like sometimes we think only Islam is different.
Yeah.
Like, that's actually pretty consistent. But like Imam Ghazali rahimahullah would say, that a person that considers himself to be an intermediate or advanced student of knowledge, i.e., like scholars like these mashayikh, they have studied at least 6 years. They would say 6 years. Others have classified it 5 years. Some have classified it to 10 years because that's how many years the Prophet waited before Salat came down.
Wow.
But there were years that were set before a person could be classified even as an advanced student of knowledge. Or people spend it in certain countries, they don't necessarily study like 8 years straight, but they go into halaqat every evening and they have durus every evening and they study like that, which in today's time is like workshops, right? Similar
or
concept.
Like here at Miftaah, you guys have a program.
The evening programs and so on and so forth. So, but there's some continuity in it and there's some consistency in it, right? That allows people to be, learned like these mashayikh.
But I think that connects good to what we were talking about suhbah. Because we don't call like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq Hafiz Abu Bakr. You know what I mean? We don't say like Sheikh Abu Bakr. Because his greatest quality was who he spent time with. Everything under that is demeaning almost. You know what I'm saying? So it just goes into the conversation of we really should really place a big emphasis on who we spend time around. I spoke about that during my workshop. Like, it's very important to really look closely who you're spending time with. And al-mar'u ala dini khalili, right? So Sahaba is the greatest title for that generation, even though their knowledge may have been more or less, right? So there may have been Sahabi who died in Badr or Uhud. You know more Quran than them, but your iman compared to theirs, like,
that's true.
Right? So I just think that suhbah tied right into that. We don't even care about the title. We look at how much time did you spend around people of knowledge or in these circles of knowledge. Some thoughts.
They say al-ilmu fi as-sudur la fi as-sutur.
Yeah.
Knowledge is in the hearts and not in the pages of a book. But Ustad, someone introduced you at the last Miftaah circle in Cleveland. Who was there in Cleveland? Was any mashallah. There you go. Hey, hey, you can clap, man. Oh, it's halal. Some say that. But over there, the person who introduced you said, like, this man who's coming on the stage is a definition of balanced. Deen and dunya, right? And I'm like, man, I never thought about it that way. Like, do they think we're very imbalanced or something? Like, I'm starting to look at something, I'm rethinking all my decisions in life. Like, he's balanced. Is it because of the nice shirt? Like, what made him so balanced? And then I realized, because, mashallah, Ustad is also an engineer. He's working full-time. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to force him to stop working full-time and start doing this full-time.
It's like when Abu Bakr became the Khalifa.
That's it, no more.
The day he became Khalifa, he picks up his satchel to go to the marketplace. They were businessmen. He's walking to the marketplace and Umar's looking for him. Where's Abu Bakr? Where's Abu Bakr? And his wife's like, well, he went to work, And he goes and he sees him in the market. What are you doing here? He's like, I got to feed my family. He's like, no, we have more pressing issues. He's like, well, who's going to feed my family? So I just thought of that when you said you want him to quit and just do this full time,
Tawakkul. But Ustaz, so what was, maybe you can speak about how the definition of balance took place in your form, and mashallah, Ustad, one of his teachers, his hifz teachers, he probably doesn't even know this, but his name is Sheikh Muhammad. I mean, he knows his teacher's name. From Windsor, right? And he told me how Ustad became Hafiz and what type of dedication it took from him early in the mornings in those halaqat. So, I mean, nothing worth working for in life came easy. So, mashallah, you finished your hifz, then you started studying ilm, and so on and so forth. And maybe you were already married at some parts of that, or you're not married.
Yeah.
Bismillah, Ustad. Give us a secret sauce on how to get balanced. If it's to wear a shirt, I'll wear the shirt. Whatever it is.
All right, so 20 years ago, no, just joking. No. Okay, you know what? So I think the word balanced in this case, in general, is inaccurate. And there's no balance in deen and dunya because you can make the dunya deen depending on the intention and so on and so forth. But it's all khair, right? It's the way we phrase things. So let me just do two quick things. One about the title and about the term balance. See, these terms, we kind of bring it up. Just what we learn is that never do LeBron James' mistake. What was his mistake? Is that he called himself the GOAT. Right? And he regrets it.
But he is, isn't he?
And he is, صراحة, because we have some people from Cleveland, right? So he is the GOAT. For the elders, GOAT, not as in the actual GOAT, is the greatest of all time. All right? Fantastic. So, and this is actually, with the titles, usually it's the people that will provide the title. So no matter how much knowledge I may have, I will never go beyond Ustad for the suit, right? No, may Allah make it easy for us. I remember one of the fundraisers, very known, Sheikh Kifah Mustafa, Imam Kifah. So I was in a fundraiser with him because he asked me about my hair. So all that is going to tie up, inshallah. So when I gave my session, then he came to do a fundraiser. Then my hadith that I shared was the 3 people that were tested with hardship, then they were tested with blessing. So one of the 3 people was bald-headed, right? And then Allah gave him nice hair. So I just said the hadith and I just moved on. So then Imam Kifah, he says, you know how uncomfortable, Majid, I was when he said this hadith? Because he's bald. No, so he said, listen, I want to confess. He says, the reason I wear kufi and most imams is because they're bald-headed. Not sunnah, anything like that. But I know Mufti Abdul Wahab is different. No, his hair was up, mashallah, tabarakallah.
My turban is my hijab.
Mashallah. No, so we covered the question about hair there, khalas? Okay, so let's tie the Quran memorization. Let's be very practical. Quran memorization and suhbah. So this is what happened. So alhamdulillah, I was married, and Sheikh Muhammad Mahmoud, he wants to start a Quran hifz program. And if you really are excited or interested in that, take some of the notes that he shared with us. Ready? So he came and then he told us, I want to start a hifz program that's intense for 1 year. And when I heard the announcement, with not an ounce of exaggeration, I was so happy for the community. We never had something like that before. This was in Windsor. And I remember I was at the door leaving the masjid when I heard the announcement. And then I said, may Allah make it easy for the people to be able to memorize. It never crossed my mind.
How old were you?
I was about,
If you don't mind.
no, roughly, but 23 or so. So then...
So right now you're like, how much? I'm just messing with you. You don't have
بلغ أشده وبلغ.
I just reached it today.
Oh, mashallah. Happy birthday, mashallah. You're 3'3". Okay, all right. Okay, March 3rd, right? Mashallah. Okay. So basically, it never crossed my mind that I will ever register because it's impossible. Because I was working full time. I was at Chrysler Auburn Hills, so I used to cross the borders every day. I had my daughter Maryam, so it was almost impossible. Plus my lectures that I do. I used to do a weekly lecture every Thursday. So as I was leaving, a brother's name is Abdullah. So Abdullah from Somalia reaches out to me. He says, would you join the hifz program? I said, Abdullah, it is impossible. It's impossible to join. Because full-time work, I just had my first daughter. I do weekly lectures, a lot of research involved. There's no way. Sheikh Muhammad Mahmoud calls me. He's like, you going to join us? I said, Sheikh, it's impossible. You want to know the schedule? Ready? It's Monday to Thursday between Maghrib and Isha. Fridays are off. Saturday and Sunday after Fajr. 6 days a week. My traveling and all that stuff. Anyways, so I told them, this is what I did. I said, I have a way to get out of this. I told them, let me ask my wife. Brothers, take notes. All right? Why? Because I know we're smiling.
The key was to try to get out of it. You ask your wife.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Sahih.
Put 'em into it.
Exactly.
Let's see.
I know we brought some smiles to some of you, but I genuinely had this niyyah. So I can tell her, so they can say, like, imagine, I don't know. I'm like, okay, then I tell them, you know, it's tough on my family. Like, truly, that was my niyyah. Astaghfirullah, right? So when I went to my wife, I told her this is the hifz program, and it's quite intense. It's probably a year long, 6 days a week. You know. So she tells me, this was, I think, Monday. She tells me, if you ask me that question Sunday morning, I would probably told you you're crazy. There's no way you'll do it. I said, why? She said, because Sunday, there's a sister, her name is Iman Fahmi, Dr. Farhan Abdulaziz's wife in Dallas, right? So she said, on Sunday, I attended her hifz ceremony. So when she was in that ceremony, she told, my wife said to herself, I wish myself, my husband, and kids are huffaz of Quran. That was the day before, less than 24 hours before. So she said, you know what? Go for it. I'm like, la. Wallah al-azim, I was shocked. I'm like, what do you mean, go for it? Do you know what you're talking about? 6 days a week. He's like, la, go for it. So then I had to keep up with my word. Like, I literally had to hold tight to my word. So I told Sheikh Muhammad and Abdullah, I said, khalas, I will enroll. So I told him, you won't see me as much. He's like, it's fine, right? Just make sure you memorize the Quran, yeah. Anyhow, alhamdulillah, the last surah I memorized, I tried to go in order. The last surah I memorized was Surah Luqman, which was our session today. And the graduation ceremony was about exactly 1 year, and it was after Fajr. I think it was a Saturday. And I tried my best. There were days I cried because I couldn't catch up because of my traveling. So I don't want to leave the group because I feel like I don't want to miss out. SubhanAllah, with Allah's fadl, it was right before Fajr Salah, I finished the last ayah in Surah Luqman, and I finished the last day of the Hifz program.
Takbir.
Alhamdulillah. Allah barik feek, ya Rab. So just to end on this, you see the connection, what's happened there. Not, oh, Majid memorized the balance deen and dunya. No. It's Abdullah that called me. It's Sheikh Muhammad that out of all 30,000 Muslims in the city, give me a call. It was my wife's friend, Iman Fat. It's just friends, and subhanAllah, look what happened. So may Allah accept from all of us. Jazakallah khair. Thank you for reminding me.
Allah yabarak, Ustad. MashaAllah was a beautiful story. If I tell you my story of how I became Hafiz, there was a lot of help involved. I went to a boarding school, alhamdulillah, which is also a blessing in every way possible. We learned so much. But Imam, if you can take us on some of your journey, because people ask us brothers, what was your journey like of learning knowledge? Or we actually don't have such an exciting journey like them. It was pretty simple. Our parents got married. And they decided. But that's also, if you're young and you're sitting here, that's also a unique opportunity. Because they knew what they wanted before they even got married. So when they had children, it wasn't something that they had to tell us to do. They nurtured an environment within the home that they just simply guided us towards it. Never was it a thought of whether or not we should or shouldn't do it. It was how fast can we get it done? How fast can we go to boarding school? How fast can we become scholars? How fast can we get back, start our own boarding school? None of it was ever told to us by our parents. It was just nurtured within the house. And it was because they were always seeing eye to eye. Allah bless my mother for her sacrifices and for her strength. She would iron our clothes. We were spoiled, man. People think we were in boarding school, but we are. But we were, like Maldi, we were very spoiled. Like, she had 5 sons. She has 5 sons. And when she would send us off to boarding school, she would have to make 5 bags. And each bag, we have like 20 of these. And she would iron each pair, fold them, put them nicely in the bag, close the bag, and then send us off. And then she would have another 5 bags, some with snacks, some with hygiene stuff. And then she would cook food, 4 or 5 trays, and send it with us. So when we get to the boarding school, she knew that there's so many students who don't go home for the breaks. So when we get there, the whole school would be waiting for us. We're like, man, we're so popular. Like, oh my God, right? They all really like us. And we would walk in, they would help us with our bags. You know how it is boarding school. They'll all help you. They're all over the place. And they're like, yo, where's your mom's biryani? We're like, oh, okay. It's right here. They would sit down and open it up, and the whole school would eat together. It was absolutely beautiful. And my mother always says, I'm sure a student that was sitting there who made dua helped you guys somehow, some way. Right? So that was really, our journey was our parents. Yeah. And if you want to know more about it, you can ask them. And if you're able to ask my mom, if you can get her to talk, you're blessed. Right? She always says, I don't know whose dua got you guys. You guys are wild. Or like, Amiji, we're still pretty wild, but I'm pretty sure it was your dua for sure. So we don't really have a journey of that nature. They get all the credit as they deserve to. But Imam has a beautiful journey.
Yeah, before that, I think there's a point there too. I think sometimes with religious studies or religious aspects of our lives, many Muslims kind of say, I don't want to force my child, right? But in every other area of life, if the kid ever was like, I don't feel like doing algebra, you're gonna be like, I don't care, you're doing it, right? So it's really weird how when it comes to religion, now I think there's hikmah, there's wisdom, how so that you leave a good like taste. Even in education, I think it's important to leave the love of learning in the child. I think a lot of schools actually take that out, where the child remembered they used to love learning, and all of a sudden one day they just hate school, right? So that's a whole other topic.
Shameless plug. There's people here from the Legacy Institute.
Yes.
Are they here somewhere? Are they sitting in the hall? No. If they're not sitting in the hall, they're right there. Mashallah.
Yeah, Legacy
brother.
is amazing.
Mashallah.
Yeah. Legacy, online learning, and keeping the talab of learning and the joy of learning there. So anyways, I just think it's important there to point out that this double standard of, I don't want to at all push they got to just choose it. It's like, wait, you don't do that anywhere else in their lives. You push them towards the right direction everywhere else. So in the course of, I think, religious education as well, that has to be there too, right? And it is important to leave a good taste. Again, that's the part that takes wisdom. But that should be everywhere. To me, that's a common denominator everywhere, right?
Just subhanAllah, Shaykh, Jazakallah khair. Just a few weeks ago, a father reached out and he says, my son is not waking up for Fajr, and I feel bad waking him up for it. Ooh. So he said, what do you think I should do? So I said,
put water on him.
Put water, exactly. It's coming, actually, pretty close. So he's like, you know what, I don't want to force him to the religion. I don't want him to hate Islam and everything. So I said, let me ask you a question. If a school day comes and he says, I don't want to wake up, what will you do? Literally, that's what he said. I'll drag him out of bed. Yep. I said, then what about Salah? Yeah. He's like, yeah. That's exactly, subhanAllah, how he mentioned it.
So I think it's important to understand, like, we want to leave a good subconscious memory of religious things in our childhood. For sure, 100%. That's super important. But at the same time, the sense of urgency still needs to be there. Right? There's a sense of the sense of urgency still needs to be there. That's all. I
mean, there was no one in this world that was softer than our Prophet ﷺ. But his personality was not a cop-out for not implementing deen in his family's life.
Yeah.
Hassan radiallahu anhu, and there's no one softer than him. فَإِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُ. He was the softest person you could find. And when Hassan radiallahu anhu took from the dates of sadaqah, he took his finger and put it in his mouth and he plucked it out. And he was 4 years old. He took a date. You can't find something more halal than a date. It's as halal as it gets. Right? It comes like
it's
literally.
It's Muslim food.
It's a Muslim food, man. Like it's ours,
I converted it and they made me eat one like right away.
So now you're really a Muslim.
Yeah, they did my tahniq.
And then they gave you some kanafa.
Yeah, exactly. And then biryani.
And then biryani, right? Then you made it. But he's putting a date in his mouth.
Yep.
Right? And 4 years old, 4-year-old kid eating, that. Yeah, it's okay. Let him eat it. It's all right. He'll be all right. He'll grow up. He'll learn that. The Prophet could have said, he could have told him afterwards.
No.
Like how he did majority of the time when it came to someone doing something wrong. Because he would tell them afterwards.
Yeah.
But he took the opportunity, took his finger in his mouth, and he plucked the date out.
Yep.
And he said, hey, we don't eat from the dates. We don't eat from the
I love this. I tried this with my son, right? He's like 5.
You tried it like you.
No, not the same thing. But no, hold on. You know this? We don't do that. This like fakhr of our family. We don't do those things, right? Like my son, you can still play like you know whatever. So like he did something, and I'm like, hey, Qasim, we're Smiths. We don't do that, right? Like we don't do that. That's not what we do.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like to build that. Hey, other people may do that, but hey, we don't do that thing. Just to build that realization that that's not us. We don't do that thing. I think that part of the hadith is deep, where he pulls it out and goes, we don't do this. But that's a great example of softly, firmly. What's the word when you're firm but gentle? Like you can be firm and still gentle at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. Assertive, but at the same time gentle, right? Like, no, I love you, right? I mean, yeah.
I mean, he's the same person that Hassan and Hussein are riding on his back.
Exactly.
Like he's the same.
So they have good memories, which they remember this man loves us. And that's the thing. A lot of us are trying to correct people that we haven't proven to them that we love them yet. They're still trying to figure out, does Baba really love me that much? Right? So all they remember is those negative things. But when Hassan and Hussein look back, they look at all the beautiful moments where love is clearly shown.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we could sit here and talk for 30 minutes. He's on a minbar. He sees them stumbling into the masjid. He comes down and he goes, oh, I couldn't help myself. And he picks them up. He did that in front of a masjid of masculine, macho society men. And he called them Rayhatan, my two flowers. Right? He said, whoever loves them loves me, and so on. So many examples of public displays of love to these children. So, of course, when he does reprimand, they know he loves us more than anything. And so the reminder is accepted. Wallahu alam. So I think it's just, we have to balance it with both. Right?
So going back to our question about your beautiful journey, though, right? That's, that was where.
But the word journey is so
but
like...
like, like Imam's like, if anyone watches sports, something called pivot, right? You call an audible, he's pivoting away from it, right? But the reality is that a lot of us that are sitting here may not become scholars, but there's always, like, people like us, we're not scholars, we're students of knowledge. You know what we enjoy? We enjoy spending time with our teachers and their teachers. Just sitting in the gathering and watching them speak to each other. I actually enjoy that more than most things in life, where you just see scholars of the highest stature sitting next to each other and just speaking. And you're not a part of the conversation because you don't deserve to be part of the conversation. You're just happy that you're part of the room, and you can just watch them. Because there was a time that you couldn't get in the room too. Now you're allowed to get in the room.
I know.
Like, oh my God, I'm in, man. I can speak too. And it's just so enjoyable. It's like how, for sports, it's like how rookies, when they make it to the NBA, and they're still marveling over the fact that they're playing on the same court as LeBron. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm here.
But, I'm here. I'm actually with these guys. That's how it is. But these people over here, mashallah, have dedicated 12 years, 10 years of their lives doing what they're doing. So, Imam, I think it does justice that we hear about your journey. Not like, we don't have to go to like autobiography.
So I was born. So let's see. Bismillah. It's been all Allah's blessings. SubhanAllah.
And specifically the person, the suhbah.
I got you.
You know what I'm talking about.
There are so many people like Abdullah. Like his story of Abdullah. I have an Abdullah, okay? So I'm 18 years old. I'm just getting out of high school. I go to a really posh, like, all-white school. I'm the only minority in the class. Kind of set up for college, but I mess up on my, like, applications, okay? Are we recording? This recording? And we're live too? Okay, cool.
Half.
Huh? Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, let me just make sure I keep the right story out. Okay. You got the deep story, and then you got the, like, public story?
We'll delete the video, don't worry.
You sure?
I want the raw one. I want the real.
How many people are here?
No, you guys want the real one? Yeah, man. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you got to get rid of this video after, okay? All right. Okay, here we go. Bismillah. All right, I'm 18 years old. Okay, I just finished high school. I didn't get into the college I wanted to, so I was going to take a year off. Okay, 18 years old. I've always been spiritual when I was like 15 up to 16, or maybe up to like 14, really spiritual. But then Christianity didn't start making sense to me. I went to a Catholic school. And so that put Christianity right in front of me. And it made me see Christianity as what it was. So I go from like 15 to 18 just like a heathen, just doing what every high school kid does. Okay, cool. I graduate and I'm working this job, right? And well, while that's happening, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I can't tell this one. It's not good. Okay, so I've never told this public, okay, y'all? So I'm walking downtown. I live in Buffalo, New York, by the way, okay? Right up here, right? So I'm walking downtown because my mother owned a daycare center downtown. I used to work for her, help her out. And I walk past a Navy recruiting office, right? And it was just kind of one of those moments in the movies where I kind of like look at it, and I'm kind of like, right? Right? So I walk in, right? It's like just curious 18-year-old. These guys are worse than car salesmen, man. Like these guys, they'll get you, right? Education, money, job, everything, right? I walk out an hour and a half later, signed up, ready to go to the Navy. Okay. Right? I'm 18 years old. Okay.
Jitsu and stuff like that.
No, back in those days, I just wrestle, football, stuff like that.
Mashallah.
Okay, 18 years old, okay? So I go to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I just signed up for the Navy. And she was like, okay, I guess, yeah, good, wow, okay, it's great. She was happy, right? It's a move, it's a positive move. There's no bad in it, right? So a week passes, and you have to go to like this formal federal building for like proper testing. You feel me? Like, this is no joke. Once you go in here and sign, you are government property for the next 8 years. You feel me? All right? Cool. I can't believe I'm sharing this story. Okay. So I go through all of these tests, okay? And I do all of the tests. They give me the position I would have in the Navy, and I swear like my oath. Okay? Cool.
Did your shahada?
Yeah, of course. My bay'ah. I did my bay'ah. I did my bay'ah, okay? So I come back, I tell my mom, like, hey, I'm officially in the Navy. 2 days later, September 11th happens. Okay? Right, 2 days later. So you know how old I am now, right? Right? 2 days later, September 11th happens, okay? We're same age, right? September 11th happens.
My math is bad, but...
I'm 40 years old.
MashaAllah. Takbir. Takbir.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to sing happy birthday over here, but I'll do in the room for you, inshallah.
Inshallah, later on tonight, inshallah. So I'm tripping because I was just doing it in peacetime. Like, I was just going to chill out. But all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, my God. Like, this got real, like, really quick. No, do you guys get what happened, right? So the recruiter calls me a day after. And he's like, hey, Michael, we need you to come back down, fill out some paperwork. And I'm like, what kind of paperwork? You know? It's like when the car salesman calls you back to sign something, you're like, whoa, right? He's like, oh, there's one test you got to retake, right? And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, oh, no big deal, just come. And I'm like, this guy's playing me, right? So I'm like, am I in the Navy? So he's pivoting. He's like, oh, no, just come. So I put my foot down. I was like, am I in the Navy or not? He's like, no, the test you failed, you disqualify. You're going to have to come back down. I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm not coming back. Right? Hold up. So then he goes, why? What happened? I was like, did you not see? Listen, I kid you not. He goes, oh, that'll be over in 2 years. Yeah, right? So I start working another job. So alhamdulillah, Allah blessed me, like completely blessed me, right? So then what happens next is I'm working a job, and one of my coworkers is like Nation of Islam, okay? And in my talk earlier, I mentioned being in Detroit, exactly. Right? And I was trying to make mention to y'all, like the African-American Nation of Islam, even though they were not on true Islam, as we know, everyone knows that, right? But the work that they put in to make Islam known and acceptable, Muhammad Ali, like Malcolm X, like everyone, Imam Muhammad.
Muhammad.
Yeah, Imam Muhammad bringing everyone over. Like, you got to understand, you could walk through Philly, New York, Detroit, all these inner cities, and people will respect you in inner cities because of black Muslims and what they did. So
round of applause for them.
So it's just, you know, and then what happens is most of your parents, when they came over, your fathers were in inner city masjids, and now they create suburban beautiful masjids. And the inner city masjid is just decrepit, no one goes to it, whatever. No proper imam, whatever.
I mean, man, this is actually a great point. You know, we lived in a city called, I mean, we say we're from Ann Arbor, but we actually lived in a city called Ypsilanti. Anyone Ypsilanti? No. Oh, yeah, Ypsilanti, right? EMU. We're from Ypsi. I do not remember praying an Eid Salat in Ypsilanti or Kenton, though MCWS was always there. We prayed almost every Eid Salat in Highland Park. Wow. In Detroit.
Is that inner city?
That's inner city Detroit.
Wow.
My father used to take us every single Eid Salat to Detroit because those are the brothers that took care of him when he came.
Yes.
And he just, honestly, I mean, this is an Eid Salat. If someone gets a chance in your own cities, rather than praying Eid in your local masjid, just go to the inner cities, take some gifts. and pass it out, and no pictures. Just do it. My father's been out of town for some years, and he used to do it every single year, and we would get so annoyed.
Yeah.
Like, bro, we're not even from this place, man.
Yeah.
But because of that, those guys had our back.
Yes.
Sheikh Abdullah
yes.
is actually like he's a half black. He is. He's half African American. He spent most of his years in the streets of Detroit.
See, that's beautiful,
That's
man.
that's why the way he is the way he is.
Yeah. You can see it.
Yeah, you can see it.
So this guy's teaching me Nation of Islam stuff, okay? And I was always into religion. Like, it always, like, in my heart, your heart's always calling. What's this life about? And especially at Crossroads. So when you're graduating, like grammar school to high school, you're at a new, so this is what we do. Check this out. Our society sets up micro goals. And those micro goals keep us occupied. But when we reach a waypoint, we get this kind of crisis. What am I going to do next? That's why some of y'all doing y'all like third PhD, right? Because you run out of stuff. All you know is how to put another micro goal in front of you and work towards it. And it distracts you from the macro goal of why are you here? You feel me? So when you're in high school, you don't even have to think about anything but the next quiz, next exam, next then. But once you get to senior year, you're all of a sudden you're like, oh my God. And then now you get into college and you're like, okay, back to how I was. Okay, freshman, sophomore, And now you're graduating, you're like, oh my God. And then you go, let me just do a master's. You know what I'm trying to say? So we put all these micro goals in front of us so that we never have to look at the macro goal of what we're doing, right? And I just think it's really important for you to stop and think, like, where am I going, right? So anyways, so where was I in the story? He was teaching me Nation of Islam, and I was right out of high school. So I was at this really, like, deep place where I'm thinking, like, what do I want to be? I know everyone tells me I should go to college. I know the script, but I'm not really buying the script. It's not what I want. He's teaching me Nation of Islam, and I'm like, wow, this is deep. So he brings me to the Quran. He's like, here, have you ever read the Quran? Now, September 11th just happened, so the news is like, Islam. So now I'm super interested. I want to know more about Islam because it's just everywhere I look. So I start reading the Quran, and I kid you not, I remember walking into Barnes & Noble, picking it up, sitting in the parking lot, reading it, and I'm like, this is amazing because it was new but familiar. Like, coming from Christianity, I knew every story. You talk about Joseph, you talk about Moses, you talk about Ibrahim, I knew the stories, but the clarity and the perspective that it gave. But I'm confused because of the Nation of Islam. I'm like, wait, this was revealed on Muhammad? Like, is this Elijah Muhammad's book? Or, like, I'm confused. So I was like, wait, who do I know that can help me with this? I was like, wait, Malcolm X. Al-Hajj, Malika Shabazz, he went through the same thing. So I'm like, let me read his autobiography. And I go back through it, and I'm like, oh, I got it. I get it, right? And I remember the day that I walked into a masjid in Buffalo, and I walk in, and there's these two brothers who are like African-American Tablighi Jamaat dudes, right? And Tabligh Jamaat is all about dawah, right? It's all about dawah, spreading the message. And they see me walk in and say, I'm here to accept Islam, and they like fikr, yo.
It's like a field day for them.
They're
man.
like, yeah, Allah.
Allah. Allah bless those people, man. Allah reward them.
So I walk in, I'm like, I want to take Shahada. I take my Shahada. They teach me how to pray. And I start going to the masjid. And this new religion is just so captivating. I just want to be around. So I'm going to all the prayers. Now check this. This is where it gets crazy. I'm already in Buffalo. I live in Buffalo. I was born and raised in Buffalo. So this one brother, I was talking to him earlier today, Tamer. You know, I asked you for the link, and I sent it to him. So his name is Tamer. He's Egyptian. He saw me in 3 different masjids, 3 days in a row at 3 different prayers. On the 3rd day, he goes, who are you? Just imagine 3 different masjids in Detroit, 3 different prayers, you see the same dude. You're kind of like,
Post 9/11?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't think of that. So, no, in a nice way, though. He goes like, what do you, like, I was like, I converted, da-da-da-da. He was like, well, you're always in the masjid. You should study the deen. Listen, you should study the deen. Now, I'm at a crossroad. It's a perfect, like, Allah was keeping me from doing something. Look, Allah doesn't close doors. Sometimes a door has to be closed so that you're ready to go through the next open door. You feel me? Allah's not closing doors. You just got to realize if every door was open, you wouldn't be where you need to be when that door opens. So I didn't get into the college. I didn't get into the Navy. I didn't get into those things because there was a door that I was supposed to walk in through. So he says to me, he goes, you should study the deen. I'm like, okay, how am I going to ever afford to do that? Where am I going to go? Right? He's like, what do you mean where? There's a huge school in Buffalo. I'm like, what do you mean? He takes me to this Dar Ulum, right? And like, for those who don't know, like the Dar Ulums are just, it's an amazing movement that brought knowledge across the world. It's just absolutely amazing. The number of imams and scholars around the country, world that have benefited from this style of education. But nonetheless, I go and I see all of these people studying, and I'm like, I want to be in. I love it. This is beautiful. I go to the main office. There's a man there. I recognized him because he looked like the guy who used to come for Jummah. So I recognized him. It was Sheikh Ibrahim. So he says to me, here's the application, fill it out. I fill out the application. He goes, all right, you're a little older than our normal age of acceptance, but you see that guy over there, and he points to an office. He goes, that's my father. And I saw this elderly man sitting on the floor with this white shawar kameez, white beard, white kufi. And he's like, I'm going to ask him. If he says you're in, then you could get accepted. So his name, his father, was Dr. Ismail Maiman. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago or so, I was in Detroit for Miftaah, right? We were doing Miftaah. He passed away. I was landing in Detroit from Dallas when I got the message he passed away. Like, alhamdulillah, I was able to go, and we were there at the janazah. It was so beautiful. So he's in the office. He takes my application over to him. And I remember this moment where he looks at the application, and then he looks at me, right? It's just this moment, like he just looked at me from a distance. I mean, I must have been as far as, like, you know, your nephew there with the turban on, right? And what? Okay, so then that was funny actually, but yeah.
And he looks like he's ready too.
Yeah.
Turban, everything. Yusuf,
So then he
mashallah.
goes, I just see him nod, like, yeah. So then Sheikh Ibrahim comes back to me, and he's like, you're accepted, but, you know, there's a
There was no sorting hat like Harry Potter?
No. It was pretty much like that afterward, you realize. But so I got in, but then he goes, but there is a tuition, obviously, so you'll have to pay the tuition. I come back out, Tamer, who brought me there. Remember, Tamer's the one who took me around. Tamer's like, what happened? I'm like, I got in. He's like, okay, you should be happy. I'm like, I don't have money to pay like $3,000 a year. You know, I don't have that. He's like, oh, okay. All right, let's see. He drops me at home. Like an hour and a half later, he calls me back. And he's like, my mother wants to sponsor your first year. Right? I did my first year. I memorized, I think, 2 juz of Quran. My next year came, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to leave. His mother sponsors the next year. And the next year, and the next year, and the next year. 7, 8 years of my education, this woman sponsored. Right? And people ask, like, when did you plan on becoming a scholar? It's such an interesting question because the moment I sat in the Hifz class, I kid you not, guys, I used to count the letters on the page because 10 deeds, 10 good deeds. Like, I would count my letters because there wasn't a goal other than the reward. Like, a lot of people feel like you're in it trying to get somewhere. You're where you want to be. So some of us in this room, like, my question is, when are you going to be where you need to be? You get what I'm trying to say? Like, you're always looking ahead. Okay, you graduated. Now you're looking ahead to marriage. Then you get married, and now you're looking ahead to kids. Then you're when are you ever going to be, though? You feel me? Like, and it never stops. When are you going to actually be in the moment that you're at, you know? So I started studying. In 3.5 years, I ended up memorizing the Quran. I spent another year of muraja'ah. And then after that, I was like, I don't know how old I was. Must have been 23 by that time. No, I don't know, actually, like 22. and they had an alam course, a alamiya course. It's a 6 plus 7 because I had to learn another language, as you know.
You know how Sheikh has been dropping those Urdu. But he's doing that as an African American.
Yeah.
A lot of the
they don't do
the
this
Desi
now.
youngsters here, like they can't even speak Urdu, man.
Yeah, so they don't do this now in the Darulooms. Like your school, there's no Urdu, right? Of course not. But for me,
It should be like we don't have it, but like
but
we
for
don't Urdu
me,
ourselves. That's a problem.
So for me, you got to understand, they're studying all classical texts in Arabic.
Yeah.
But because the teachers came from there, they would teach in that medium. So I had to spend an extra year actually learning it. Yeah. But I don't look down on it. Like half the community, right? You can connect to so many people, and it's such a thing to learn different languages. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, actually, amazing. And actually, when you get to higher level Urdu, it's a lot of Arabic.
Same,
Yeah, it's a lot of Arabic. So you end up
Don't
like.
say that, Sheikh, because the Desis over here already think they're half Arab.
Oh, okay.
They're like, you're not, right?
They're in Dearborn. They might as well be like, you're in Detroit, right? So next, I sign up for the next program, and that was a 7-year program, and yeah, I did it, and I got out and moved to Baltimore, and with my wife. That's a whole nother story. I married my teacher's daughter.
MashaAllah.
Right? Yeah.
That's how you know he was a good student. Yeah. Or else that would not have happened, right? If you're a student here thinking about it, you gotta be a good student first.
Yeah. No, that was the greatest blessing. My wife is my greatest blessing at all, 100%. Nothing
Takbir,
greater.
takbir.
Nothing greater. After Islam, nothing.
No, so
After
we
Islam.
were going to delete this, but now we're not. We're gonna keep it now, so your wife can watch it and keep it as evidence forever. And Imam, Allah bless Imam, bless your family, bless your kids.
So then I got you the whole story. Y'all want the whole story? I'm giving you the whole story. Okay, so then I moved to Baltimore. I was imam in Baltimore for about 5 years. ISB and Annapolis. I was imam down there. And then out of the blue, I got a call from Dallas, Qalam. They're like, yo, why don't you come join the team? And I think it's important for me. It was important to work with people. I think in our field, a lot of people are solo, right? But we could do so much more together. Like, look at us, this Miftaah, Yaqeen, Qalam, Maghrib. Like, look at what we're doing all together. You know what I'm saying? And so I joined the Qalam team about 5 years ago. And now the rest is history, right?
Qalam guys, you guys got lucky by a year. I swear to God, if you waited one more year, we would have brought Imam to Michigan. But nonetheless, we're so fortunate because the guy sitting on my left is from Michigan. So we are right? Alhamdulillah.
You're good.
Ustad
You're
Majid.
good. MashaAllah.
Allah bless both of you. MashaAllah. Jazakallah khair for the beautiful story, Imam. We really appreciate it. But those two brothers that were from the Tablighi Jama'ah, no one's going to ever know their names.
Wait, hold on. Abdullah and Tamar.
No one knows
Those
them.
brothers right there.
They're the
Like,
gen-
you don't know. You don't understand how much I talk to him and I say to Tamar, I'm not even being, no hyperbole. I can't catch you in good deeds. Everything I do, you get all of it. So how could I ever catch you? You feel me? And all he did was have enough care and concern to help someone learn.
And he went out of his way.
Yeah, like there's the rest of your day, I'm off today. All right, let me help this guy. You know what I mean? And then his mother and whatever, right? Like, amazing. But just think of that how much he got just for that one moment of, let me help somebody else. You feel me?
100%.
Until today, he's doing amazing work. I talk to him every day.
If you, maybe at a certain age, I always say this. If my father was a scholar and not a physician, he would probably not be able to have the impact on deen that he had. Everyone's placed where they are supposed to be placed. They have the impact that they need to have. If he was a scholar, he would be stuck in a classroom teaching a few students. But because he was a physician and he was a da'i, he would travel the country and just give people da'wah. I mean, people in different states, we travel quite a bit, fortunately or unfortunately, but we're blessed, alhamdulillah. And we meet people, they're like, oh, are you so-and-so? I'm like, yeah, you watch Miftaah, huh? He's like, no. I'm like, how you know me? It's like, your father came 15 years ago, and this happened, I was struggling with this, and boom, boom, boom. And he brought me to the masjid, he brought me to God. It's always like, brought me to the masjid. It's never that he brought me to himself. It's always that he brought me to the masjid. We sat in the masjid. We did this in the masjid. The place where you do your da'wah makes a difference. it makes a big difference because it does have to work for you, right? Brought me to the masjid, this happened, and I would come back and ask my dad, hey, you know this guy? Like, no, I don't know who that is, because they weren't doing it for that purpose. You know, like, we're like, whatever, just give our da'wah. But if we can't be like Imam Mikhail, Ustad Majid, we can be Tamir and Abdullah, right? We can definitely be a Tamir or Abdullah, right? Like, there's people that you can find in your communities. Khairun nasi anfa'uhum lin-nas. The greatest people are the ones that are not the source of the most benefit for the most people. The greatest people are those who will give the most benefit to the people that have access to. A lot of people think the hadith refers to that the greatest people are the ones who can give benefit to the most people. That's not true. The greatest people are the ones who can give the deepest sense of benefit to those they have access to. So as a parent, you have access to your children. That's plenty. You're the greatest person in this world if you can give the most benefit to your children. That's all the Prophet did in Mecca. He didn't try to expand in Mecca. He just gave more time. Don't you like sometimes you be thinking, the Prophet had the same 10 people sitting in front of him for 5 years.
That's crazy.
It's like, yo, man, I'm tired of seeing you at Miftaah events. Go somewhere else.
In a 23-year career, almost 23 years. That's a fifth of it, right?
Fifth of it was just those same people.
Wow.
But he kept giving them everything that he got. He was giving it to them. So you want to be a Tamir or Abdullah, you can go on miftah.org/donate. And I'm messing around. I'm just messing around. May Allah bless Imam Mikhail.
I know he thinks it's a joke, but it's not. It's true.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's true. How many students, I'm going to put him on blast.
No.
How many students come that don't have the money to pay?
I think,
Percentage.
I think the rule,
quite a few, right?
Yeah, the rule is that when we went, the rule that we have for our boarding school as well and for Miftaah is,
Yep.
if they can't pay, you come.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And
Qalam's
so,
the same way.
Same way. Just no
Qalam's
percentage.
60%, 60, 70%. People don't have the money. Right? So that I know it felt like a joke, but
No, but the reality is, though, no one would know. Doing it is great, but then if you impose it, it takes away the benefit, right? Nobody in our schools and institutions know who is and who's not
Yeah,
paying.
of course not, yeah.
Nobody knows. Not even the teachers. The teachers don't know that this person is or this person is not. Nobody knows.
Allahu Akbar.
Because of that, it flows so beautifully.
Allahu
That's what Ustad Majid, is to sponsor a few students, inshallah, but he's an engineer. But
He's balanced, right?
He's balanced, Get that balance, man. Man, why does he have the balance, man? I'm just messing around, Ustad. I love you, Ustad. Wallahi, I do. But the idea.
Hold on, I know time is up, but
No.
we don't have to go against that?
No.
Okay, listen. At Qalam, we have students who are part-time students who work full jobs. I can think of a brother right now, Naeem, okay? Naeem Beg. His son is running around Qalam. His wife is taking a few classes. She's working on her laptop, IT job. He works as well. The student of today, and me and your brother were just talking about this, when it comes to the adab of being a student of knowledge, the student of knowledge today is different. They're studying different. And our institutions have grown to the point where you don't have to make your whole life about that. So at Qalam, I know, and I'm sure you guys have a similar thing where you don't have to just all or nothing. We have so many people at Qalam, I can think of a Sister Nefertiti. I'm just off the top of my head, students right now who they're taking a class, and then when they come out of that class, and they're on their laptop working a full-time job, but they're students of knowledge while they're, and they're balanced. They're doing that. They have their field and whatever's taking care of their family, and they're studying the deen too. So we're in a different time right now. You guys we live in such a blessed time for Islamic studies where there are a number of programs, IOK, Miftaah, so many different, the Maghrib programs where you can be a proper student of knowledge and not have to sacrifice your entire career.
I mean, you give credit where it's due. MashaAllah, the people at Maghrib, Muhammad al-Sharif, rahimahullah, pioneered this idea and this concept in the Western world of making knowledge available at a non-compromised level for the masses. May Allah bless him and bring all the light to his grave. Bless his family, give his family patience and sabr, and give them the best of this world in the akhirah. Inshallah, qulu ameen. Ustad Majid, you were someone that benefited from that process, right? And maybe you can speak to us a little bit about that, and everyone that's here can also hear about it. Inshallah, we'll wrap it up right after, inshallah.
In English or in Urdu?
Urdu. I swear to God, if you speak Urdu, that's it, man. I'm going to walk out. If you speak Urdu, I learned the language that I dislike the most.
Really, yeah?
Which one is it?
Uh,
That's messed up. Why would you say? If you're were you Bangla who said it? Then it's okay. Then it's all right. All right, man. Don't do me dirty.
You gotta have like one Urdu saying, no?
What's a language that I dislike? I mean, you can't dislike anything, but what's one language that I kind of like?
No, whatever we say is gonna sound horrible when people listen to it. So
It's French, man. Like
okay,
that's
French.
it.
Okay.
I mean, like, horrible, man. But we have people in Montreal and Quebec. But I love the people.
Okay.
It's just the language. You know why? I think I have like PTSD. Like when I studied in Canada.
Oh, okay.
So as kids, we learn English. We come from America, and we know Urdu. We're learning Arabic, and then in school, we're forced to learn French. Like J2, il, al, nous, vous, il, jazz. I'm like, man, I've already learned the fa'ala. Now I've got to learn this too. It was too much. But if you know Urdu, I'll learn French. But go ahead, Ustad.
मुझे उर्दू ज़्यादा नहीं आते. Just a little bit.
It was
English
epic.
bolo, Arabic
Perfect.
bolo.
Perfect.
Urdu bolo, Torah. Okay.
Come see, come sa.
And if you make me upset, ما تمكو بهت مارunga. No, all right, bismillah. What was the question?
Maghrib, how Maghrib Institute kind of guided and pioneered that way for you to study and learn.
With the Maghrib Institute, and actually the way you addressed it earlier, Jazakallah khair, it's not all or nothing. And it's very important. People say, Brother Majid, did you do your engineering first, then Islamic studies, or what do you recommend I do? Do I take a year off? Whatever your life is at right now, you should always have an income of Islamic knowledge. Yeah. This is non-negotiable. There's no excuses for that. You can be studying medicine, you're studying engineering, whatever the case is, you always have a continuous income of Islamic knowledge. The question will not be, should I study or not? It'll be how much. That's the question. So then accordingly, okay, if you're doing full-time engineering, studying, etc., then that's how many classes you can take, and you try to be quote-unquote balanced. But there's something to keep in mind. So alhamdulillah, with the help of Allah, when the Maghrib Institute, was teaching the classes and I was hearing of them, and at the beginning, I'll be very honest, I will admit, I was extremely disturbed for them charging $165. It was 2-weekend seminar. $165. I could not believe you're charging money.
$165? I'm so disturbed.
Yeah.
I'm just messing around.
What I'm saying is like, subhanAllah, like how can you teach seerah and get paid for it? Yeah. Like this is, I can just go Rahiq al-Makhtoum, this sealed nectar, and just get the book. Like this is an amana. When they have a copyright on Quran, like how can you have copyright on Quran? Like what do you mean? Right, subhanAllah, but then eventually, the older I get, you realize there's a lot of money involved, printing the binders, flying the instructor, he has a family to feed, and all these things. So eventually I accepted the concept. So one guy told me, his name was Yusuf. Okay. He said, I used to work, by the way, I worked for 5 years at a restaurant, doing shawarmas and all the good stuff, all right? So then my main income was on the weekend, so then Yusuf says, take a weekend off for the class. I'm like, that's my main income. I cannot take a weekend off because that's the only time they teach the class. So Yusuf says, just take it, and if you regret it, whatever the case is, money is on me pretty much. So I said, okay. So I went, and it was Sheikh Riyad Orzazi. He was teaching a class, A Heart Serene, a book by Ibn al-Qayyim. He just translated it. And from that class, everything changed. I start crying at the last weekend. I'm like, when are we going to see you guys again? Like the experience was so powerful. And I'm telling you, you guys are hearing it now, watch how you will feel on Monday when you leave. And you'll remember, subhanAllah, especially if you're just new to this. For being balanced, the main thing to share with you is always have a consumption of Islamic knowledge, but the question is how much. To end with this from my end, your goal determines the path. Like, should I do this or should I do that? Do I want to go to this level or that level? What do you want to be? Who do you aspire to be like? You have to have a role model. If you say, I don't have a role model, that's one of the biggest mistakes.
So who's your role model?
Miftaah al-Wahhab.
No, really, like who is your role model?
Depending on the aspect that you're asking.
SubhanAllah.
Right?
I like that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so it's depending on the actual field. To be very quite honest with you, when it comes to delivery, storytelling and so on, is actually Sheikh Mikael. May Allah grant him Jannah.
Takbir.
So I really, Allahumma barik, may Allah keep you steadfast and make you better and better day by day, Ya Rabbil Alameen. So that's an example. Like, I think he's very talented in that field, mashallah, tabarakallah. The one who read the Quran, mashallah, the opened the ceremony from Houston, right? His recitation.
It was me. I recited
He
it.
said, you're my role model. Right? May Allah bless
But at
you.
least I can say he was my student. That's good enough.
Ahsan.
Alhamdulillah. I didn't teach him how to read Quran though. Trust me. Someone else did.
May Allah bless you guys. Allah barik fikum ya Rabbi.
That's it, Ustad?
That's it.
Oh, but I want to ask you one more question. Imam, go ahead.
I do want to add to this, and I don't mean to plug qalam. This is what we do, right, all day. So what I've noticed,
As long as you plug Miftaah with them, all right?
Yeah.
But if it's 1 minus 1, then I'm not cool. That's 1 plus 1.
okay. So let me
That's
also explain a difference in Islamic studies now versus when we did it. When we did it, are we good with time? Are y'all tired? Are we like, okay, all right. So, okay. So when we were studying, no. Oh, shuttle's good? Yeah. Okay, so like before when we studied, it was all or nothing. Like especially with the Darulum style, you either did all of the Alam course or you did none of it. What we found in institutions now, which has changed, is the ability to study part-time and also spread education over time. So I'll give you an example. Right now we have a student studying with us. His name is Sa'im. He's going for residency. So he came to us right after he finished undergrad, and he did our year 1. He did his whole year 1, and then he went to med school. He finished med school, and in the middle of med school, he took a gap year, right, or right after, and he came and he did it was our 3rd year, okay? And now he's going back after, okay? I have another student, Abdurrahman Trabolsi. He studies in Stanford Med right now. When he finished his undergrad, he came to Qalam and did 1 year, took a break. Now, this is significant. I'll tell you why. I said before we have micro goals and macro goals. A lot of us just keep going from one thing to the next, and we never pause to figure out who we are. We never pause to stop and think, where am I going? Who am I? What do I want? We just jump through the next hoop that family, society, or whoever tells us to jump through. So I think the idea of a gap year at a place of study around people of knowledge really allows you to reassess where you're going in life, what you want to achieve and become, and still study at the same time, right? So I have multiple examples of people who at those places where you're about to jump through the next hoop, they would pause, stop, go sit with some shuyukh somewhere, Miftaah, IOK, Maghrib programs, Qalam, I don't know, wherever. Take time off, 6 months, 7 months, that's it, right? As soon as that's done, go right back through that where they were already going. Then a little bit later, they would take another gap year. Like a lot of people would get acceptance and then defer their enrollment, right? And many schools like, yeah, go ahead. And you can even fluff it up like I'm going on a retreat for upliftment and whatever, right? And they loved it. They eat this stuff up, you know what I mean? They love it. You put that on your resume. I went for a year of like, I don't know how you do it, but whatever. They love that stuff, you know what I mean? So the point is, for everyone here is as you go through those stages, take the time to pause, and in those pauses, don't sit by yourself, sit with good people. That's the thing. A lot of it pause and just do what? Like, no, be around good people, positive influences, and then before you know it, now, when Sa'im finishes his like residency, he will be done with 4 years of qalam. We only have 5 or 5.5 years. So the atmosphere of Islamic education in America has changed so much, and there are so many opportunities. So just kind of wanted to put that out there.
Inshallah. Inshallah, we'll wrap it up, and I'm just going to ask Ustad Majid to say a few more words because like he's here, and he hasn't, like I've spoken more than him. And it's not good because I feel bad if I leave and I've spoken more than him. So like I've been counting, Ustad, you haven't spoken enough. So tell us anything. No, I'm just messing around. But really, Ustad, as we leave, you know, inshallah, this is day 2, but the first night session that we've had. Maybe you can tell us, in a short span, why for us this is the suhbah that we need to continue having when we go back, and how we should look for it and how we should seek it. A lot of people here are not from Michigan, and they saw the storm. They're probably not going to come back, you know.
You know, subhanAllah, when it comes to the suhbah, if I were to summarize it, I'll just mention one hadith. How about that? Let's put it all together in one hadith. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in a very famous narration, he says, كان في من كان قبلكم, one of the people from the past, قتل 99 نفسا. He killed 99 people. And this is actually almost insane to comprehend. Someone killed 99 cases of murder. So then this man had a little bit of an ounce of regret. So he went to a abid. He went to an elite worshipper, not a alim, abid. So he says, I killed so that many people. Would Allah ever forgive me? He said, of course not. You're a loser. You killed 99 people. You think you got room for Allah to forgive you? Absolutely not. So this man felt, if this is the case, then come over here. Come over here, do what? Come over here. And he kills them. So that makes it a total of 100. So, but he still feels a little bit bad. So then he goes to a alim, na'abid, alim, a scholar. He says, I killed 100 people. Would Allah ever forgive me? Do I have room to be forgiven? Then he says, who dares to put a barrier between you and Allah's mercy? And this is, he's talking to someone who killed 100 people. I don't want anyone sitting here to be busy. Like, how is that fair for him to be forgiven? Don't ruin and spoil the hadith and the story. Let Allah, the Hakim, Al-Hakim, judge, and the All-Wise. So he says, but there's one thing I want you to do. And the scholar has 100+ things to advise, right? And when someone is desperate, they become all ears. So whatever you tell them to do, they will do. So the scholar tells them only one thing to do. He says, you are surrounded by corrupted people. Okay, if I leave them, that's the solution? No, you have to find a proper substitution. So he says, أُنَاسٌ سَيِّئُونَ اذْهَبْ إِلَىٰ قَرْيَةٍ فِيهَا أُنَاسٌ صَالِحُونَ. Go to a city that has righteous people. And there you will learn, pull the masjid as your father, may Allah grant him Jannah, Ya Rabb al-Alameen, and bless him, say Ameen. He pulled people to the masjid. So on his way, as many of you know, there's multiple narrations, all authentic, inshallah, he died. And one of the first times that ever happens that the group of angels of rahmah and the angels of punishment both come on the same person. So much so that the angels were arguing. So Allah sent an angel in the shape of a man to judge which group of angels take him. The angels of mercy said he's going to repent, so let's take him to Jannah. The punishment of and the angels of adab, they said no, he killed 100 people, he didn't reach there yet, so let's take him to hellfire. So Allah, basically the judgment was as such. Measure the distance from where he died to where he was, and from where he died to where he wants to be. And whatever he's closer to, take him. In another authentic narration, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shortened the earth, the land. So he was closer to city B, not city A. And who took him? The angels of mercy. What does this have to do with the question about suhbah, traveling? As if what determined if he went to heaven or hell was which group of people he was closer to. And it was the righteous. And as a result, he went to Jannah. So surround yourself with righteous people and you be with them. As Sheikh said earlier in the talk, Al-mar'u ma'man ahab, aw al-mar'u ala dini khalilih. You are upon the religion of your friends. So if you're asked a question, think of your 5 best friends right now. Best friends. I only have 3. Okay, think of those 3. If you're told you will go in akhirah wherever these 3 will go, will you want to go with them? If you say, let me think, they're not the ones you should be around. You should be confident, like, yes, inshallah, I would love to go with them, inshallah. So may Allah grant us the best of companionship, Ya Rabb al-Alameen.
I want to add
Of
a
course,
little. It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful hadith that he shared with us. Sometimes you may live in a place where you don't have this environment, right? Okay. You may live in a place. Sometimes people ask this question to us. What do? I live in such and such place where we don't have that environment, okay? Real talk. When people choose a place to live, they look at school district like crazy. You will literally pass on a house because it's in the wrong school district. Okay. Would you move to a district that didn't have a hospital and basic services for your well-being or a bad school? You would literally not move there. So real talk, for those who are in the next 3-4 years going to be putting your families together, the same way you won't move to a place that has a bad school district, who told you to move to that place that don't have a proper masjid? Did you had to move there? Oh, you had to move there, huh? You literally select based on a school district. So have the same criteria when it comes to a religious somewhat of a religious practicing community where we can be okay. So what I'm trying to show you, we already do it. But just apply it to your deen. You feel me? So for some of us, wherever our parents raised us, whatever, they did their best. That generation was working on different. But for us now, in the next 4 or 5 years, y'all gonna be putting your families together. First thing you asking wifey and thing you asking him is, does it matter where we lived? We need to be close to a masjid or no? The same way our children's education, how do you look into that? So I just want to show that we have that ability already. Let's just apply that to, so you can't come 20 years from now and say, oh, but our community doesn't have a al-ardullahi wasiya.
Yeah. Either build it or move.
Thank you. Why do people feel so locked down to places? I don't understand. They feel like Detroit is going to like stand up for you day of judgment. Like, okay, Detroit's pretty good.
Come on, man. Detroit.
Yeah, y'all good.
I was going to say you should just move to Michigan, but
but
right now it's not a good time because of the storm.
And I'm not saying, and I think it's beautiful when Islam spreads to new places and we populate, and of course you need pioneers and stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
But you need to look out for you and yours, yo.
That's a good point.
I just think about these things. Just think about these things. So
beautiful.
when you say suhbah and you said go to the good place, I just wanted to bring that up because everyone always says, but what if in my area there's no, why are you there?
Subhanallah.
You know what I mean?
In Fadkhuli fi ibadi wasn't, by the way, a lot of people, you guys come from different cities. You guys do have imams. You do have scholars. That's plenty. We don't need like people who have YouTube videos and have this and that. That person who's holding down the fort in the masjid is the reason why we have all these institutions. Deen is not always entertainment. It's what it is. It's deen, right? That's what it needs to be. The imam that leads salat is perhaps more honorable in the eyes of Allah than all of us, right? Because those are the people that are holding it down. They might not know the language, but why should they? They're not from here. They lead salat, they take care of our community, they fulfill the needs of the community. Without them, we would not be able to survive. So we should also, when we go back, imagine how our local imams would feel when we go back and we thank them. And if you're a brother, you go hug them and you just show them love. And if your sister, you make dua for them and you say salam to them and so on. Like imagine how special they will feel. We are not there to take you away from that need. We are there to make us understand that that is a need. That is perhaps the most important need. And that is perhaps the most important process that can fulfill whatever void that we have within our lives right now with deen. The local masjid. And the local masjid is not unique because of how big it is. There's an imam, there's a community. We work within it. And we allow ourselves to grow. And if we have a chance to move somewhere else, we move if we need to. Michigan is always open. The market is pretty low. Come on, man. That was a Dallas Sharif.
Dallas is a spot, yo. I'm telling you. Dallas is lit, man.
We have to have.
You gotta check out Fudgers.
Doors.
You gotta check out Fudgers in Dallas, yo. They be like,
That's true. That is true.
They
Fudgers
come
in Dallas
through
is pretty
hard,
cool,
yo.
but we got issues on lock. At least we got that done.
No, I heard every night in Detroit and like Dearborn is just like 50,000 people,
Well,
25,000.
It's beautiful.
In some areas, no? I heard some guy talking about it the other day. Oh, just eat only? Okay.
But but really, the masjids in Dearborn at nighttime are full.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
Yeah, they're full. They're full.
Oh, few. Okay.
Alhamdulillah, they're full, mashallah. But maybe we can take a few questions, Imam, Shaykhain.
Yeah,
You guys are cool with
yeah.
it? Just a few questions. We'll do 3 on both sides, and then we'll go from there. Imam, you can pick. Go ahead.
Yes.
Sheikh Abdul Nasir Janda mentioned in one of his lectures in Illinois the importance of having a mentor.
Got you. Yeah. Yo,
Takbir.
this was what Qalam was on 5 years ago. Yesterday, Ustada Fatima Let was here. She is a teacher and a graduate from Qalam. She travels around lecturing. She's on our campus every day teaching classes. I share an office with her, see her every day, right? MashaAllah. The point I'm trying to make is I think we're at a point now where everyone understands, and you should understand, there's a barrier. There's a natural awkwardness between us and genders. That's part of our deen. And so we needed to create female scholars that y'all could connect to on a deeper level so that you could have that closeness. And all I can say is there's people studying in the Miftaah program, right? There's a lot of sisters studying at Qalam, and that's what we're in the process of trying to fix, right? And that's literally what we're doing every day at Qalam. But you wanna issue, how do you solve that right now, maybe?
It's more of the situation that many sisters are doing their graduation or whatever they are doing in their private lives, and now they still want to have that mentor. Okay, they will take halaqas and here and there, but they want to have a female mentor, but they can't have it until they take a full-on class with that sister.
Not necessarily. No, that's not. I don't think that's.
I think like if I can interject, so
No, that's a great one. She just asked, how does she get in touch with Dr. Haifa?
Yeah.
That's not a hard
No, it's
thing,
not a hard-
actually.
No, actually, it's the same way. If I can say this with the most respect, it's like saying, how can we get in touch with Sheikh Abdul Nasser and Sheikh Umar Suleiman, right? They are, mashallah, extremely busy, and they're not anyone's specific mentor. I would say, of course, Abdul Nasser has students, Mikhail and so on. There are local.
I didn't study.
No, I mean like you're a mentor as well, but you can't be everyone's mentor. That's my point. You're your student's mentor, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, there are sisters in our communities that may not be as well known,
Yeah.
that are there, but if we put the criteria that they are known and they have become this person, it definitely will become harder to find those people, both in men and women. And perhaps they are not the best mentor for us because they already have so many people that they're mentoring, or now they're just teaching. One of the rules that we had in our institutions was we can only have X number of students that we can be the mentor for. And then after that, we have to find another teacher for them, because that's the way that you can actually mentor someone, right? So there are sisters in our communities that are not known. They don't feel comfortable speaking in front of brothers. They don't feel comfortable being in certain types of settings, but they're there. But the question is, how do we find them? That's our job. We have to do a better job letting them know that there are people that are looking for them, that there's a need for them, validating the fact that they are absolutely not a supplementary to male scholarship, but they're a necessary aspect of the growth of our community. If we do a better job, it'll be okay. So the ball is actually in our court. And so far, alhamdulillah, Qalam and whoever else, at Miftaah and IOK, we have Munir. We have a whole school that we're sitting in called Munir Academy, that all we're doing is building female scholarship. So if we drop the baton on it, then that's messed up. Our goal should be that we have female-only sessions where female scholarship is there and you can connect with them with the most time possible, say salam to them, be with them, make them your mentors. And I know even Al-Maghrib is tarbiyah program they're doing. This is a problem even within males. This is a huge problem even within males. Males have scholars that they can look up to and speak to, but very few males actually have scholars that they can take as mentors. Everyone that's sitting here from the brothers in an associate program, we can't be everyone's mentor because we have so many students, alhamdulillah, which is a great problem. But at the same time, there are other people within our teachers that they can be their mentor. Like Sheikh Handullah is there, the other Sheikh is there. So there's enough shuyukh that they can just mentor each other. So our goal should be to increase a female scholarship, show them that there's not that show them that they're needed, they know they're needed, and then give them a platform where they can create that type of a link with females so they can see that there is a mentor for them. But Dr. Haifa Yunus is amazing, but she probably is hardly a mentor for any specific because she has so many students, right? That's why I use the example of Sheikh Umar. But of course, they're all mentors to some extent. But if they were everyone's mentor, then they probably would not have yaqeen and qalam, right?
Yeah.
So that's
And what, if you don't mind, what area of the country do you live in?
Illinois.
Chicago.
Oh my God.
You're blessed.
Chicago. No, but I have asked a lot of imams. Like I asked for, do you know a local qarya? They don't know.
Okay, let's see. We'll get your contact information. We'll help you.
I can, for Chicago Sharif.
Yeah, straight up.
Chicago is original.
You might as well say
Dallas
like
is a knockoff.
Yeah.
It's like Nike, then you had Reebok, right? Like a proper knockoff, right? And Detroit is original too.
Chicago is,
Chicago Sharif, man. We had a
We'll
conference
help
that we
you.
hosted
We'll
in Chicago
help you.
recently.
We'll help you. The issue that happens is a lot because of comfort. Like not every sister scholar would be comfortable in front of a mixed gathering too. So sometimes it's just like finding out.
Thank you for calling this out. I'm messing around.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Messing around.
So sometimes you don't know who's around you, and I think I just wanted to echo what he's saying. You know.
Saad, you have anything to add to that? Okay, next question. We'll take two more. One from the brothers. Go ahead, Habibi. Salam to Allah. Mm. And you ustad too, man. MashaAllah, man. Hey.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think in this situation, the last thing you said is like they know you from your past, okay? Look, literally verbatim, Musa alayhi salatu wassalam. وَفَعَلْتَ فَعْلَتَكَ الَّتِي فَعَلْتَ, right? So first of all, you got to put that to the side. You know what I mean? Malcolm X, great people, Abdullah bin Mubarak, they all had pasts. But that should not ever stop you from changing a new leaf and helping to bring people to the truth. Cool. Now, how do we bring people over, right? The first thing I'm going to say is it has to be gradual. I think it has to be gradual. Small victories are big victories. Work with the person slowly. Abdurrahman Murphy, who has roots with us down at Qalam, we work with people slowly. Be patient with the person. Sometimes just praying with them, around them, even if they don't pray. You know what I'm saying? It's tough. Every case is so unique. Every case is so unique, but my main advice, I guess, would be take your time with them, be patient, and don't give up. And never get angry with them either. You know, when you start to get angry, then the people start to entrench themselves in the wrong that they're doing, and now we have a tug-of-war going on here, right? But all I would say is this. There's one more thing I would say. When I was flying, right, I was coming, and they always make this announcement. In the case of emergency, this mask is going to drop down. Put yours on first and then. So just remember, sometimes we think we're giving dawah and we're getting dawwad, right? So just make sure you're not being the one influenced, right, through your constant struggle to bring that person closer, right? Give people time, man. Give people time. Give people time.
Beautiful.
I don't know.
That was beautiful. I'm sorry, I want to add anything to that. I'm not adding anything. I was going to say a story that Imam was coming from Dallas. There was a brother that was on his flight, and they were checking in. And the brother was coming from LA for the knowledge retreat. He sees Imam Mikhail. He's like, hey, what's your name? So Imam Mikhail says, my name is, Mikhail. Right? It's like, oh, are you going for this conference or something? And Imam Mikhail's like, yeah, I'm going for this conference, the knowledge retreat in Michigan. So I was like, yeah, he's right there. He's right. And I love him. He's very close. He's a younger brother for me, mashallah. He's from LA. He's, Allah bless him and his family. Such a beautiful family. Allah protect and preserve them. And he's like, but the fact that he asked him was a big deal. The fact that he came out to you, like, I like him for that. Yeah, where are you going? Like, just in case you're going somewhere else. Like, yo, man, you got to come for the knowledge retreat. Yeah, and then I'm looking at the positive, but it's very hard, But then he's like, yeah, I'm going to knowledge retreat. So the guy's like, oh, so what was your name again? He said, Mikhail. Oh, you're Imam Mikhail, right? That was in the flight. But I'm not adding anything. You add something, inshallah.
MashaAllah, awesome. When we had the Anchored by the Quran, one of the volunteers, when he saw me, he's like, brother, the registration is right here. so I actually went to go ahead and register.
I'll tell you a funnier story. I walked into one of our events in LA. We had a conference in LA. I walked in, and I'm like, they're like, in the morning, from the hours.
You looked the part.
And I looked the part. And I just changed quickly and come back. And the buzz's like, where's your wristband? I'm like, oh, I didn't get one. Can I get one? He's like, yeah, of course. He puts a wristband on me and all that stuff. Hours later, because then I went on the stage, he's coming like, I was like, it's cool, man. Where's your wristband, brother?
It's funny we say that because the word for showing off in the early community was sum'ah, right? Not riyah. Well, riyah is there, but sum'ah, because in those days, your name would travel, not your face. Do you get it? So the scholars used to talk about be careful of sum'ah, which is wanting to be known. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't call it riyah as much, because riyah, like, no one recognized Ahmed bin Hanbal. You know the famous story. He shows up at a place and no one knows who he is until he says his name, and they're like, oh, wow, you're who you are, right? So the early days, showing off was called sum'ah because of the name traveling, and you had to be careful of wanting your name to go.
And that was the last day that we had wristbands at Miftaah events. I was like, no more wristbands, man. We're going to have tickets because it's a little easier. Wristbands are a little tight. It gets a little annoying. But anyone have wristbands here? No, right? You have tickets? Nice tickets? Some QR
Man,
codes.
how many of y'all just walked in with neither, though? Like, just
There's some QR codes in the back of the ticket. You can use those. They're nice. Ustad, go ahead. You can add.
Just really quick, mashallah, because you seem like to be in da'wah, and I'm sure many of you like to advise others. In addition to all the wonderful stuff that were mentioned, don't be too hard on yourself if the person doesn't accept your advice. Do not judge your success based on how they react. And in general, our success should not be in the hands of others, because it's based on the effort, not the results. Because if success is based on the results, the first ones to go to hell are prophets. Why? Because some prophets will come يوم القيامة وليس معهم أحد. Not a single one believing in the prophet, but they're the most successful. As a parent, as a mom, as a father, you tried everything to raise your child to be a righteous child. You have not failed as a parent if your child does not pray to Allah. If you really tried. You as a parent have failed even if your child prays because you never told him to pray. So it's based on the effort that you put. Nuh alayhi salam is the greatest father ever walked on earth along other prophets. But his own son wasn't a bad Muslim. His own son was a kafir. So just your job, as we learn, is to convey, not to convert. All right, so it's about the job.
Takbir. Allahu Akbar. Ustad, so if Imam Mikhail and Ustad Majid are here, they're not going nowhere. I mean, they're here as long as we try to keep them here. So if you have questions, they're in the front. You can come and ask them. Inshallah, they'll be here. We'll be standing here, inshallah. We'll take more questions, but those that have to go on the shuttle, we should let them go, because if they don't have a shuttle, you guys don't have to give them rides. Right? And gas is expensive these days. Allah bless everyone. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, Allah bless everyone. May Allah bless all of you for coming. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah, guys, 10:30 is the last shuttle. So if